Can I pilot Levia in Blitz, or will I end up just killing myself to blood debt? Let's find out. Hi friends, welcome back to Nearly Sane Games. I'm Neil, and this is the Armory Report. Now this week's Armory was Blitz, and I decided to take Mansant's Levia deck and see what I could do with it. I made a few little changes to it. I don't have Skullhorn, and I kind of value Null Rune a little bit more than he did, and I decided to go with 2 Sink Belows instead of a Sink Below and a Fate Foreseen, and I don't have an Eye of Ophidia, so I was running 2 Reckless Swings instead. And I'll include my deck list below and a link to his video. Now note that his deck has changed a little bit since he posted that video, so my deck list is a little bit closer to his current deck list. But excellent set of videos. If you're looking on anything on how to play Levia, I strongly recommend going to Mansant's channel and subscribing to him. He's got some excellent content. So let's get into the matches. First round was against Lexi. Now, I started this match. I botched the dice roll. I rolled a 2, and so he decided that I was going to go first. And I looked at my starting hand, and I had 3 Deadwood Rumblers in it. I believe I had 2 blues and a red. And I did not want that hand. I wanted to get rid of some of that so I could do some blocking next turn. I was thinking about just Arsenal and passing, but I really needed to get stuff in the graveyard and start things off. So I started off with an 8-power Deadwood Rumbler. The discard hit, and I ended up discarding the blue Deadwood Rumbler, which I had to banish. So I'm already starting out with blood debt. That's not what I wanted to do. But it's Blitz. Everything happens faster. So let's go with it. The 8 power attack really hurt his initial hand. He wasn't ready for that much block. I think he had 2 cards that didn't block. He ended up taking 4 on that. So I was okay starting off with that. Early on in the game, I ended up using my Husk. There was a threat of damage that would take me below 13. I would need to lose the Husk anyway, so I decided to use that Husk. I should have also blocked with another card from hand. I didn't quite have enough in my graveyard to do what I needed to do. You really need to get those first 3 or 4 cards in the graveyard before you start putting on the pressure. And I was kind of... my game was way off, and I really wasn't thinking about what I needed, all the lines I needed to do. You really need to think ahead when you're looking at Levia and what your next attack is, how many cards are in your graveyard, what you're going to need to do to play the cards that you have. And so I didn't fill my graveyard enough, and now my Husk is in the graveyard, or in Banish. I've got some other blood debt in Banish, and I am struggling to try to get my game rolling. Take some blood debt. I took a hit that I ended up getting 3 Frostbite tokens on. It was kind of a beating, and I certainly blame myself for some of that. I really got off to a clunky start, and I need to probably practice a little bit more before I just start up with a Levia deck again. They do take some forward thinking, and you really need to pay attention to what you're blocking with, what your lines are, and how you can get to the threshold of cards in your graveyard that you can start just kind of churning through them. In the end, he was at 8, I was at 4, and I had the ultimate decision with Levia. I could block this big attack that's coming and survive to get to my turn and have no way to turn off blood debt and just die to blood debt, or I could die to his attack. I think I had a bunch of reds in hand, so I didn't have what I needed I ended up using Skullcap instead of Hope Merchant's Hood. I don't know that that was necessarily the wrong play. I did end up with 2 counters on the Skullcap. I got its full use out of it, so that's 3 points of block that I definitely needed. But in the end, I was just kind of stuck. And so I ended up blocking and dying to my own blood debt. Round 2 was against another Levia. I was kind of surprised to see another Levia playing in Blitz. And I won the die roll this time, or he gave me the first turn. So against Levia, Arsenal pass. Don't give him a chance to fill up his graveyard first. So this was a little bit of an odd match. This was very much a mirror match. He threw a blue Deadwood Rumbler at me, and then I threw a blue Deadwood Rumbler at him, and then we kind of went back and forth using blocks to fill the grave. And I had a decent Bloodrush Bellows turn, and ended up, he threw an Endless Maw at me, I threw an Endless Maw at him, I threw a second Endless Maw at him. The next turn, which is both for 9 power, good amount of power going at you, and makes it difficult to, especially in Blitz, decide how much of that you're going to take and how much you're going to leave in your hand to come back with. I got him down to 1. I was still at 10, and he ended up getting Blasphemous out. So I had to decide exactly what I wanted to do. But I had a good turn against him, and all he could do was swing Blasphemous at me. So, and I had just the most excellent Blood Rush turn. I had a card in Arsenal. I had Blood Rush Bellows, and I believe I had a yellow and 2 blues. 2 of those were 6s. So I was able to take that hit and follow up with claws, and then I think a 9 power total attack. Too much for him to block out, and ended up taking him out. Round 3 was against Briar. I will tell you that Briar is still very much not dead, especially in Blitz, where she still has access to Plunder Run. And I did get a good hit in there. Around mid game, he was at 13, I was at 10. I took a little bit more damage to keep a hand that would let me do a red Barraging Beatdown and then a Writhing Beast Hulk with Dominate. So that ended up being an attack with Dominate for 10, which was really nice. I really like that combo, and keep an eye out for it. Barraging Beatdown and Writhing Beast Hulk go very well together. So he got me down to 1, which is very, very bad for having dealing with Briar. I didn't bring in any Arcane Barrier, and not sure if I should have or not. I was running the Skullcap, so technically I guess I had an Arcane Outlet if I absolutely need to throw away a blue for that. Probably didn't want to do that. I think the Arcane, or the block on Skullcap, is more important than the Arcane Barrier. I ended up doing, he was at 4, I was at 1, and I had a Blood Rush turn that I was able to do 2 claws for 5, and then Hungering Slaughter Beast for 9. And now we're sitting at 1 and 1. I draw back up. He immediately makes a rune chant and throws it at me. I think I'm dead, but I happen to draw a Sigil. Hey, Sigil. So throw down Sigil of Solace, go back up to 4, drop down to 3 with the rune chant, and it was an all red hand. So my choice was to either block and die to Blood Debt, or just die to his attack. So neither of those are great. I blocked out, and I think I might have, I don't think I had any attack for that. And then I just passed the turn and died to Blood Debt. So not great. Probably could have. Briar's still a tough match, and that's fine. Came pretty close, 1-1 at the end, so can't complain too much about that. Round 4 was against a chain, and early on I was able to bring a lot of damage in. He wasn't soul shackling every turn, so I think that gave me a bit of an advantage. When chain soul shackles all the time, he can just come back with overwhelming hands, and so I think that worked. I think that was helpful to me. I got his Husk early on a Blood Rush turn. He was going to go below 13, so ended up just blocking a Claws. That also worked to my advantage. So he was already starting to rack up blood debt that he could not get rid of. He was taking at least 1 point of damage every turn. I took some blood debts there early on, but it was kind of an odd set of hands that I was playing through. I was not racking up a whole lot of blood debt. I ended up using the Husk, and I had maybe 1 or 2 other cards in there. And so I took a hit of maybe 2 blood debt early on. It wasn't too bad, but I was gaining a lot of cards in my graveyard. I was not having those banish 3 cards attacks a lot early on. In the end, we got down to the point that he was at 2, I was still at 8, and I had arsenaled a Reckless Swing, and I drew a hand that was all 6s. So that was the end of that. I kind of feel sorry for him. He just swung the Rosetta Thorn for 2, and I blocked with that Reckless Swing, and there was nothing he could do. So all in all, I went 2-2 with Levia in Blitz. I think Blitz is a more difficult format for Levia. You don't have the resources, the health resources that you need to take those hits, to keep the hands that you need to really push back with a lot of power. So you got to decide on what you're going to do with that. You need to do a little bit more blocking because you have so much less health. The sigils, the defense reactions, you need to have those. And that makes an interesting game. I think Levia is always interesting to play with. And I think that I think it went pretty well. There were certainly misplays on my part. I really need to pay attention to what you're doing when you're playing Levia. You need to make sure that you're filling your graveyard. And I have found that with Levia, if you don't get your graveyard filled early on, you have this very stumbly game that you play. And I think that I need to pay closer attention to that and make sure I get that graveyard filled, because if you don't, you're on the back foot the whole time, and that's never where you want to be when you're playing any hero in Flesh and Blood. So that's it for this week. Next week, we're doing Welcome to Wraith Sealed, which should be an interesting event, and we'll see how that goes. Until next week, I'm Neil, and this has been the Armory Report.